19 Iranian state-run TV and radio stations have been taken off air in the EU. The decision by a leading European satellite provider comes as European officials impose new sanctions against Tehran. The measures targeting Iran's banking sector and energy trade are aimed at making it curb its nuclear program. Well, let's discuss this with political analyst Chris Bambury. The fresh sanctions don't target the media, so why this ban on Iran's broadcasters and why now?
Well, I think if you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to think that by banning Iranian media, 19 TV and radio stations from access to Europe, it does look like a further step towards military intervention against Iran, given it happens on the same day that the EU imposes further sanctions on Iran, and against the background of a continuing military build-up by America with its British and French allies in the Persian Gulf, and these siren calls from Tel Aviv for American action against Iran. Therefore, it seems to me a further ramping up of this. And this was a decision taken not just by a private satellite company to withdraw access. It was taken, as the Iranians were told, by the European Council of Foreign Ministers, a very highest level, or perhaps by the European Commission. Unelected bodies, by the way. There's no way of overturning this decision. The European Parliament has got no powers to do that, and therefore it seems to be a very significant attack on freedom of speech. What they're trying to do is snuff out an alternative view of Iran being offered to people in Europe, as opposed to the view we're force-fed, which is of some kind of terror state, which is out of control and a danger. And of course, we're also going to be denied the fact that Iran is offering concessions and compromise in the whole nuclear issue, not quite as it's painted by the West.
Well, that's what I want to ask you then. Why is that being ignored, Chris? They're offering concessions. They're actually saying we will be flexible now in these nuclear talks. You talk about the military build-up. We talk about these sanctions continuing. Why are those gestures being ignored then?
Because I think the Americans have got regime change in Iran in their mind. I don't think they will take any military action this side of a presidential election, but I don't think we can underestimate the hatred the Americans have for the Islamic Republic of Iran as a consequence of the 1979 revolution, the overthrow of the Shah, one of their key ally in the Middle East, the seizure of the embassy, the CIA, his headquarters was in Tehran, and the hostage crisis was a humiliation for the Americans, and for which the Americans have never got revenge. So I think you can't underestimate the determination of the Americans to get revenge on Iran, and there is this build-up, constant build-up going ahead in the Persian Gulf. It's an accident waiting to be happening. But if I may add, in terms...
Yeah, sorry, I just want to ask, wouldn't they want the impetus of that regime change come from within the country? And yet we've seen anti-American and pro-nuclear rallies in Iran lately. Experts say even the traditionally pro-Western middle class is turning against Washington. So in some respects, this is where we could see it all backfiring, couldn't we?
I think it's because the West, of course, as usual, don't look into their own history and look at how Iranians see the West. They remember that in 1953 there was a coup orchestrated by the British to overthrow a democratically elected government in Iran of Dr. Mossadegh, which had the temerity to nationalise the Anglo-American oil companies in that country. They remember the Shah of Iran was installed by the British and Americans. They remember the torture and the repression under the Shah, which is backed up by the British and Americans. They remember that the Shah was encouraged to have a nuclear program by the British and Americans. It was okay under the Shah, but not now. And actually, what it's become as a symbol for is essentially for Iranian nationalism, which is the Iranians do not like being told they cannot do something by essentially what are the former colonial powers. And therefore, it has become a touchstone for national pride, even among those who are not enthusiasts for the Ahmadinejad regime.
Political analyst Chris Bambury joining me live there in London. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.